Hi, I'm JJ. Some people know me as the Practical Alchemist. And if you want to find out what that's all about, there is a video elsewhere on this channel that you can have a look at and find out more about what that's all about. But this channel really is about bringing to you alternatives, obviously, ways of thinking, ways of doing, ways of being, ways of maintaining our health and increasing our energy in increasingly troubling times. So I kind of like to think of it as maybe offering a bit of a boost, a bit of a help in these times. So yeah, I hope that it does that. But otherwise, maybe you can just join me for the enjoyment of it. I'm grateful for your company, whatever it's for. And today, I'm delighted to bring to you a fellow swimmer, not just swimming in a chlorine-filled pool, but an open water swimmer, a cold water swimmer. She also lives in the same part of Scotland as I do, on the east coast in a region called Fife. And she's been swimming for about 2 years. I've been swimming. I've just gone through my third winter, so about 3.5 years. And I find it so beneficial. And a lot of people are finding it incredibly beneficial. And Laurie Graham, my guest today. Sometimes I bring you interviews and other times it's just me talking about stuff, but today it's an interview. And Laurie Graham is a therapist here in Fife, and she is an energy worker and also a bit of a life coach, somebody who does a lot of different modalities of therapy. And she's actually brought together 50 Reasons Why, and I have the book here, 50 Reasons Why, Finding Solace in the Sea. And she's brought together 50 stories from 50 women who she's met along the way who have found such benefits from swimming in cold water. So I thought it'd be lovely to have a chat with Laurie and for us to share our wisdom, what we know about how much good getting some cold water therapy does for you. And if you enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, and share, and leave me a comment. Let me know you're there. Tell me what you like about it and what you don't like about it. I really, really want to hear. Also, I'm trying out a different background here. My cheese plant in the background is very happy to suddenly be featured in a YouTube video. He's a very big boy there, or is he a boy or is he a girl? I don't know. Anyway, trying out this new background. I'll be trying out a couple of other ones to see which suits best. But anyway, let's get back to it. The interview coming up now. Oh, Laurie, lovely to have you with me today, a fellow swimmer. Yoo-hoo!
Yay, great to be here.
Well, thank you. And not just a fellow swimmer, but a fellow swimmer who's actually written a book
Yeah.
about finding solace in the sea, 50 Reasons Why. And really, it's a beautiful book because it brings together 50 stories or, stories from a bunch of, they're all women, aren't they? All
All
women
women. Hmm.
who have taken up what is these days called wild swimming, cold water swimming, what we used to call when I was a child, just swimming. Um, Often off the coast of where we both live in Scotland, but also elsewhere. You've got people from all over the world who've contributed to this book. But the book is lovely and it's written in your voice very much. And it's a lovely record of how cold water swimming has helped so many of us. And there are a number of things that you refer to in the book, and we'll come on to those shortly, like community and
Yeah.
helping ourselves just get into a much closer relationship with nature.
Mhm.
Um, but first of all, what really brought you to this, and what made you get these stories together and write this book?
Well, the idea behind the book itself came from one of the massive dukes, the Mahusive dukes that we did at Aberdour.
Now, just for anybody who's not Scottish,
Yes,
a duk is, well, I think they have the same word in Norwegian and other languages, but it is basically just getting into the water. So a dip. Yeah.
Yeah, a dip. So every year, obviously, we do the New Year Duk, which is the Looney Duk. But all the little sort of individual swimming groups came together and created a Mahusive Duk.
Which is a massive duk. Yeah.
Which is a massive duk. Yes, gigantic. And we did it a couple of times, and I think it was this is the second or third one, I can't remember, but it was the most recent one. I got together with one of the other swimming group leaders, and as part of the event, we were creating little sort of stalls on the day, and one of the stalls included a circle of people telling their story and sharing their story on how they came to cold water therapy and duking. And it was a lovely experience. I'd also done a podcast with the guy's name was Cuddy. I'd done a podcast with him. He did an interview with me asking why I got involved with cold water therapy, and it was something that we had planned on taking forward, and interviewing lots of different people from all over the place, and just getting their stories out there on this podcast. At that point, I wasn't really confident about doing podcasts, so I never really took it any further. But we did take it further with the Mahusive Duk, and we had a nice little group of people all sharing their stories. And when I came away from that, it was really emotional. There was lots of personal information shared, their own personal journey, and I've been part of like women's circles where we all gather and we share that kind of, we just share. It's a sharing space, and there's something special about doing that. And I have done it globally with other women online in a sort of collective space. And I just decided, do you know what? I need to get this information. I need to get stories from women into a book, because it's the best incentive for anybody else that's new to the dipping community. And I also wanted to kind of quash that. There's a bit of a stigma attached, or women specifically feel there's a stigma attached, where they have to have the right equipment, where they're maybe too fat or too thin to join a group, or women can be quite cliquey when it comes to groups of women. And I wanted to kind of squash that out, knock it out the park, because within the swimming groups, there is none of that. There's no competition, there's no comparison. We are all there for the same or similar reasons. We all just want to get in the water and forget about life for a little while. But we all have our own journey on how we actually get there and why we stay doing it. And I wanted to obviously share that with other people and give lots of little hints and tips on what we need, because one of the first questions usually is, what equipment do I need? And you don't really need equipment in general. You just need a pair of boots, a gloves, and a swimsuit, theoretically. Some people use a toe float, others don't. And a toe float is one of these things you just kind of wrap around your waist, and it's a big inflatable, and you can pop bits and pieces inside it as well sometimes. But I wanted everybody who was new to dipping to have that information to hand, a bit like a sort of beginner's guide as well. So it kind of came at it from all different angles, and it was in the one place and easy to access.
Yeah, there is this beautiful community sense that comes about from groups, not just groups, but I've formed friendships doing this that I would never have formed before, with people who I would never have met before. Yeah. And it's been enriching, it's been wonderful. And I don't think it's any coincidence that this really took off during lockdown, where we were all so isolated. And it was a great way of maintaining that feeling of community when we weren't really allowed to go anywhere, be in anybody's houses, the That was all kept from us. So it's a great way of getting together and still having that community. But it's gone far beyond that. It's for me, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, and your experiences and other people's experiences in the book. It's a massive part of my well-being regime now. And I'm almost addicted to it, but it's just because you feel so good as a result of it. Now, we talk about in your book the barriers and what people are worried about, and you've mentioned, how am I going to look in a swimming costume or a wetsuit or whatever? What do I need? Do I need all this fancy gear? No, you don't.
You don't.
And the other thing that I loved about it is that I came to realize that nobody gives a damn.
No.
Nobody gives a damn what you look like, how long you stay in the water. It's not a competition and it's not a fashion show, right? We say this to everybody. My friends and I who swim say this to everybody who comes along who's new. It isn't a fashion show. You do you.
Yes, you do you.
And don't worry about how long you stay in the water. 3 minutes, 5 minutes, absolutely fine. You'll get the benefits. And this is one of the main points to get across, isn't it? Apart from the safety.
Yeah, absolutely. The main point, I think, is, you said it yourself there, is just getting in the water and experiencing that. And it's a challenge. And it's hard going for the first few times. It's hard going pretty much every time because the North Sea, it's absolutely freezing up here. So every time we get in the water is a challenge. But it's being able to do that safely, confidently, and to stay comfortable while you're in the water as well. And then obviously the safety that you need when you come back out and you get dressed and heat up quickly, and and then you get to stand and have a chat with complete strangers. It's great.
I know you do meet some fantastic people, and from all over the world. We've met people from Argentina, from Australia, from from all parts of the world who come along and swim beside us. And they know I'm near a tidal pool, which is crafted out of the rocks on this part of the coast. Which means that it's safe at any time of the day, pretty much, apart from if it's a really, really rough high tide, in which case you don't want to go into the water anyway, because that's not safe. But it's so famous now that people come from all over the world to experience it, which is extraordinary to me. And of course, this was something which was very common along these coasts in Scotland back in the 50s and 60s. And then they fell into disrepair because people went to Spain on holiday and people went to, all these warmer places and they swam in warmer water. But they've been brought back into service and people are loving them. But it's the community. It's that well-being effect of community, but also the physical. And the safety aspects are very important. But when you get that, when you've got a few aches and pains and you get into that cold water, and when you get out, they've gone. That's a fabulous thing.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely.
So in terms of the physical, you talk a little bit about the Wim Hof method in your book and the breathing. So what are the things that we should do to prepare ourselves to go for a cold water swim, a duke?
Usually it's you concentrate. Anybody that comes along to our groups, I just ask them to concentrate on their breath work, and to stay calm as they're going into the water. And definitely not to just go running in, because that's when you can obviously cause your shock to your system. But no, I concentrate on breathing specifically, and it's just deep breathing as if you were doing a meditation. So it's deep breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And I do that just as we're walking down towards the water, as we're going in, and then I stop and allow the body to kind of acclimatise a little bit. And then we do some more breathing. And when the other person's ready, we literally just go down slowly into the water. We lower ourselves down into the water on that out breath, and never ever do it on the in breath, because as you do it on the in breath, you catch your breath. When you're doing it on the out breath, your body's far more relaxed. And lower your shoulders. If you bring your shoulders up to your ears, you're automatically going to be tense and ready to prepare for that whole sort of, it's fight or flight, isn't it? But yeah, gradually going in, taking your time, and everybody's different. Nobody does it the same way. And I said earlier, there's some days it takes me longer to get in as well. I don't always go in straight away. Today it took me a little bit longer to get in. It was freezing this morning, but it was beautiful. It was absolutely gorgeous. So the main thing is just your breath work. Concentrate on your breath work.
Yeah, and don't jump in either. And because that can be a shock to the system. If you're jumping in and not breathing, it can really give you a bit of a shock. So you have to be careful with that.
That's right.
Also be careful about, get to know the tides and get to know the safety elements of where you're going to go for a swim. Now, it's not always by the sea. Sometimes it's in a lake or a loch or a river. Be aware of what the conditions are like in that area, right? You have to prepare in that sense.
Yeah, I've said that in the book as well. Whenever you're swimming somewhere new, if you don't know the landscape, you have to check it out prior to your first swim. So the likes of if you're visiting a beach for the first time, we always check it out on a low tide to see what the rocks are like and to see what the landscape's like. And we also check it on a high tide to see how far the water's actually going to come up, because you can pretty much swim. If you're aware of what's under your feet, you can pretty much swim on any tide. We normally recommend sort of 2 hours before and after, high and low. But if you know where you are and you know what you're dealing with, you can go pretty much at any time, because there's some beaches out there that are absolutely flat as a pancake on any tide, so you can swim whatever tide you want. But yeah, checking the landscape, checking how far the tide comes in, how far the tide goes out. We have a beach, Petticoat Bay, which goes out for miles. So on a low tide, it would be pretty much impossible to actually enjoy your swim, because you'd be walking for about half an hour before you got there. Even Seafield Beach on a low tide can be quite far to walk from the car park. But yeah, just checking out what you're dealing with. Rocks, tidal height. Also, you need to check with the moon to find out what cycle the moon's on, whether it's a full moon or a new moon or in between, because that obviously affects the tides as well. But I put a little bit more information about that in the book as well. So there's little snippets. It's not, the book itself is not, it's not a full sort of fully comprehensive do's and don'ts. It's just little bits of information that you need to know for your first few swims. Any more than that, and you want to research, then you can do that yourself. But this is just kind of, as I said, it's a very beginner's guide.
Yes, and it is important, that thing about how far out you have to go when you're swimming, because a friend of mine was, and Seafield is a beach at Kirkcaldy in Fife, in Scotland, and a friend of mine was going for a swim in St Andrews at the West Sands. Now, if anybody knows that beach, it's huge, it's long. The famous beach from the film Chariots of Fire, where they all go running along the beach in slow motion. But the tide goes out so far, and she'd headed down there at low tide. And by the time she got to any water, really, she was getting cold. And then she did end up with a little bit of, sort of the beginning of a bit shivery, but getting to the point where if you're not careful, you're going to get hypothermia. And so, she learned, and there was somebody with her, so that was all right. But she learned, and the real thing that people forget is the getting warm afterwards, I think. And for me, I don't wear a wetsuit. And one of the reasons why I don't wear a wetsuit is because it takes so long to get the thing off when you come out of the water. And in that time, if it's a freezing cold wind blowing, you can get very cold. and it takes a lot longer to warm up afterwards. So for me, I'd rather just be in a swimsuit, get into the water, feel the water, and actually enjoy it. I know a lot of people don't believe that you can enjoy it, but you can enjoy it, come out, quickly off, get the warm clothes on, get a cup of tea for me into my system to warm up the inner core as well. So that's important as well. So you've got something warm outside and something warm inside. And you mention all these things, but the one thing that you mentioned in your book is something sweet to eat afterwards. It is a bit of cake or a biscuit. It's not something that I always do, but you recommend that.
Yeah, that just gives your sugar levels a little boost as well once you come out, because obviously going into that those freezing cold temperatures, it does impact on your body system. So just a little hit just to get you back up and running. But a hot drink does just the same.
Yeah, definitely. And in fact, it's one of the big recommended ways of helping you warm up afterwards. Yeah. And I mean, I'm not saying that we're all perfect, because, at the beginning, I did a couple of times stay in a little bit longer than I should. I know now when to get out, and when my body's beginning to get a bit cold or too cold for comfort. But yeah, in the beginning, there were a couple of times when I was very, very shivery. I got out, and so I'm very careful to make sure that doesn't happen again. So these are some of the do's and don'ts, checking tides, but checking currents in rivers and that sort of thing. Speak to locals.
Yeah, I wasn't. It was one of the Greg and Jules did a program on the BBC, and they did a little river dip with one of the groups. I can't remember what location it was, and I had never even considered what the current would be like in a river. And they said to swim with the current when you're going out for your swim, and was it to swim? No, to swim against the current when you're swimming out for your swim, and then to swim back with the current, so that it brought you back quicker rather than take you away. I had never even considered that as something to look out for in river swimming. But then I don't do river swimming myself. It's not that I don't like it, I've just never done it. I've never found a nice sort of river roundabout here that I can go to. But it is definitely something to look out for. I'd never considered that.
Yes, exactly. And also, if you're swimming in a lake, just make sure that, there aren't any obstacles that are going to get in your way, things that might trap you. Just make sure that it's a clear place to swim.
Yeah, and you've got, obviously, the algae and the snails and things like that as well with lochs and lakes.
Yes. I know a friend of mine gets very annoyed when the lochs near him covered in algae and you can't go swimming in that. But just to go back to Greg and Jules, that's Greg Hemphill and his wife. Greg Hemphill's a very well-known actor here in Scotland who created a very beloved comedy series called Still Game. And they have moved to actually this part of Scotland and suddenly found themselves swimming and loved it so much that they managed to get a series done for the BBC. Yeah. So then there's the stories from all these wonderful women swimming. I have to admit that when I was reading some of them, I just got very emotional. It's a very emotional thing. And it's just so beautiful to see and hear about so many people finding the sea and the water to be so supportive. But it's about getting back to nature, isn't it?
Absolutely. Getting back to nature and grounding yourself. It's allows you, it just gives your brain a chance to switch off and shut down from everything that's happening outside that water. When you're in the water, the only thing you can concentrate on is the cold and staying safe, and obviously your friends round about you, because we all keep an eye on each other when we're in the water, and everybody's responsible for themselves, but we all look out for each other and we have a chat. Most of us just bob about on our float, resting our arms on our float. Some of us do have a little swim. They'll go off and kind of have a little swim backwards and forwards, but it's being able to shut down the brain, to give it a chance to rest from everything that's going on outside that beach.
Yes, and what I like to do is I do tend to swim around a bit, depending on where you are. It depends on where you are,
Yeah.
really, and you know what the conditions are. But I do like to swim. But what I like to do is to just really allow myself to merge almost with the water and tune into the natural world around me. So listen to the bird calls. I won't say bird song because on the coast there aren't that many songbirds, but
Yeah.
the sound of the birds and at a certain time of year, the seals will sing to
Okay.
us because they'll have hauled out nearby, maybe where I swim most frequently. And so it's just that knowing that you are part of nature and allowing nature just literally hold you.
Yeah.
I
It's a
think
cuddle.
that's so important. It is a cuddle. It's a cold cuddle, but it's a cuddle.
It's
It's a hug.
comforting.
Yeah, it's a hug. Um, so, and how beautiful it is that all these women have contributed and talked about their experiences, and you know whether it be psychological, physical, it's helped them in so many ways.
Yeah.
Just give us a couple of instances from the book.
Um, we've got a few ladies in there who have suffered quite bad with the menopause. The menopause is obviously, we have hot flushes, we have mood swings, we have lots of different symptoms, and for all women it's different. But there's a few women in there who have experienced reduction in their mood swings, reduction in their hot flushes. It is, again, it's given them a chance to kind of get away from the stress and everything that's going on and the craziness in their own home or work or whatever that is happening. And that gives gives your brain a chance to just rest. So we have menopause. There's clearly evidence that it's helped them. We have a couple of ladies who suffer quite bad with their mental health. And again, it's given them a chance to switch off and rest that the brain activity, the overthinking, it calms them down from all that. I'm trying to think. There's another lady who started because her friend had suggested it. Her friend passed away with cancer, and one of the last messages she actually sent her was that she was going to do this for her, and she's just continued to do it since then. So there's lots of, there's so many different reasons. Like you said, it's both physical and mental. I just love it. Do you know, I have to say to somebody, if anybody's wanting to try it for the first time, I just say, just try it. Just do it once, because you're going to hate it the first time. You're going to hate it, but love it at the same time. But do it a second time just to make sure, because when you do it that second time, all those inhibitions are out of the equation because you know what to expect. And that's when your body can relax into it further. And then you'll know for sure it's going to be something that you're going to keep doing, because you will. Most people do keep going.
They do, don't they? And one of the changes that I felt in myself, which I didn't expect at all, was that I started to feel a greater general resilience in terms of my mental attitude. And I think it's the overcoming that it's going to be freezing, but I'm still going to do it every time you go into the water. It's that, okay, I really don't want to do this today because it's cold and the water's going to be cold, but okay, I'm going to do it. And you steel yourself to get in there and you do the breathing and you get in there and you love it. And I think doing that on a regular basis, so it's not like not forcing yourself, but, you know, moving through the resistance to the cold, something that's uncomfortable initially to you, really helps build that resilience generally in a person. Have you experienced that?
It's a sense of achievement. The resilience. Not, I wouldn't. I know I can obviously appreciate what you're saying with regards to that, but I feel it's more a sense of achievement for me. Like you're saying, you're pushing through that barrier, the fear, terror barrier, and you're doing it anyway. And then when you come out and you're dressed and you just sit there with your cup of tea and you're like, oh, that was good. I really enjoyed that today, or I really needed that today. And most of the time, the phrase is, I really needed that today.
Yeah.
And I know, yeah,
Yeah.
when you haven't been for maybe a few days, I mean, I'm out, at the very least, I'm out 3 times a week. And if I miss one of those days, I know that I need to get in the water the next time, because my body needs it, my brain needs it, everything about me needs it, my husband needs it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, absolutely. It's a great sense of achievement knowing that you've done it. And then you know that you're going to benefit from that for the next few days until the next dip.
Fantastic. I mean, there's no doubt about it. It's a great thing to do mentally, physically, and just for fun.
Mm-hmm.
People don't believe me when I say that, but it is fun.
Yeah.
When you're swimming, and let's just say, try not to swim on your own, because you just never know what can happen. And it's always good to swim with somebody and make sure that you're safe. So yeah, but it's great fun. And I just think that the community aspect of it is wonderful. We all have a chat. We might not know you, we might never have met you before, but we'll have a chat, and we're all in it together. And it's this fabulous sense of community, and how that can support us as well. So well done. Thank you so much for writing the book, and bringing people's experiences into the wider public, because I think a lot of people still look at some of us as if we're mad. In fact, every day I'm told you're mad, pretty much every day. Somebody will walk past us as we're walking along to our swim, and they'll say, "You're going in? You're mad.
You're crazy."
Yeah, you're crazy." But they haven't experienced it, and they don't get how incredibly helpful it is to your mental and physical well-being. So, and how much fun it is. So, Laurie, thank you so much. Where can people, you self-published this book, didn't you? You published it yourself, did you?
Yes, this is the first ever book that I've ever published. It's available on Amazon at the moment. It's only in paperback, but I do plan on launching the Kindle version, and at some point I will be looking to do the audiobook as well. But at the moment, it's just on paperback.
That's fantastic.
Amazon.
That's fantastic. And now you do have a therapy business. Where can people find out more about you?
The therapy business is Simply Centered. So I do holistic therapies. I'm on Facebook at the moment. And I do lots of different therapies, from reflexology, Reiki, crystal therapy, sort of Indian head massage. And I do a little bit of life coaching. So that kind of ties in with what I've done with the book as well.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for getting all these women's stories together and sharing them with the world. Laurie, thank you so much.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me.
So there we are, Laurie Graham there, talking to me about the wonderful effects of cold water therapy and swimming in the sea or the lakes or the rivers around us, and getting back to nature. Now, we're coming into a period where things are warming up here in Northern Europe, and people are starting to think about going out and doing a bit of swimming. This is the time to start. Don't start in the middle of winter, for heaven's sake. In summer, spring, summer, start now. And I really can't tell you how much you will probably love it. And I find it extraordinary that it's mostly women who we meet going in for a swim, although there are notable men's groups and a few men around who do the same, but there's an awful lot of women. I'd love to see more men getting into the water and enjoying it, because it's really great for mental health issues, as we've just discussed. So give it a go. And remember, you don't really need a wetsuit. You don't need lots of expensive clothing or anything. Just make sure that you can get warm when you get out, and that you're aware of the conditions, and that you maybe have swim shoes on, beach shoes, that kind of thing, just in case, so that you don't cut your feet or have a problem. But enjoy it. Go on, get out there and do it. Anyway, if you've loved this video, give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it. Let other people know how fabulous cold water swimming is. And I'll see you next time. Happy swimming.